لله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل رسول نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذنني أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعته وإنزاب ولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة زوجة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتأذنني أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخلا معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك وجلسنا علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا بلسنا ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة خير عمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله تأذنني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذنني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء خضع برسول الله بطرفي الكساء ووضع بيده اليمنى الى السماء وقال اللهم ان هؤلاء اهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم وانا احب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن احبهم انهم مني وانا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مطية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبته وعلى آل خمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال نبي جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء قال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا رب تأذن لي نحو إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله الذي لا يقرك السلام يخصك بالتهيئة والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مطية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لي بأن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة النجية ما أزبر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيطنا ومهبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيطنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة النجية ما ذكر خبرنا يومنا هذا في محفل من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع شيتنا ومهبينا وفيه مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مهموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. وقال علي عزه الله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيوتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
बाजू में रसे है ऐन खुदा हाफिज आई, मजबूर है भैया माँ जाई, कैसे दूं तुझको कफ़न भाई, चादर भी नहीं मेरे सर पर, मैं कहती हूँ ज़ैनब ने कहा ये रो रो कर, मैं कहती हूँ पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद
फरमान वाले मोहम्मद
बिखरे हुए
लाशे करबला के मारे गए यहीं पर बेदर्दियों सितम से ज़ैनब के दोनों प्यारे मुस्लिम के दोनों बेटे करबला के पामाल हो रही थी कासिम की लाश में अब्बास और सरवर चुनते थे उनके टुकड़े करबला के पत्थर हटा के लाश से ज़ैनब ने दी सदा क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो पत्थर हटा के लाश से ज़ैनब ने दी सदा क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो कैसे पड़े हैं जिस्म के टुकड़े जुदा जुदा क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो पत्थर हटा के लाश से ज़ैनब ने दी सदा क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो है मेरे गरीब का क्या हाल कर दिया घोड़ों से लाशा दश्त में पामाल कर दिया पहचानूं किस तरह से बदन से है सर जुदा क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो पत्थर हटा के लाश से ज़ैनब ने दी सदा क्या तुम हुसैन हो। पहचान लूंगी मैं तुम्हें, आवाज मुझको दो, दम तोड़ते जो देखा है कड़ियल जवान को, आंखों में अब बहन की उजाला नहीं रहा, क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो। पहचानना तुम्हारे लिए भी कठिन हुआ, देखा है पहली बार जो ज़ैनब को बेरिदा, आती है शर्म जल्द, बता दो मुझे जरा, क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो। पत्थर हटा के लाश से ज़ैनब ने दी सदा, क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो। करता रहा है ज़िब हकीम, कोशिश कहाँ कहाँ, खंजर पे है कटी हुई, गर्दन पे भी निशान, काटा है किस तरह से सितमगार ने गला, क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो। पत्थर हटा के लाश से ज़ैनब ने दी सदा, क्या तुम मेरे हुसैन हो।
मोहम्मद वाली मोहम्मद से जख्मी जुरन में खासी में गुल पे रगन हुआ, पैदाइशान जोड़े से रंग कफन हुआ, बाग जिना रसूल को बैतुल हसन हुआ, और फौज की में शाह हुआ, फौज की में शाह हुआ, था के रो डाला लश्कर के बाग को, गाजियों बुझा दो हसन के चराग को, गाजियों बुझा दो हसन के चराग को। अब रो गए ये सुन के सदा सरवर अब्बास नाबर से ये उस दम किया कलाम, लो भाई जंग हो चुकी किस्सा हुआ तमाम, आया सुए यतीम हसन मौत का पयाम, आया सुए यतीम हसन मौत का पयाम। हम शक्ल मुस्तफा को बुला लो पुकार के, मांगो दुआ सरों से अमा में उतार, मांगो दुआ सरों से
जामा में उतार कर
ये कह के किबला हुआ सुल्तान कायनात दरगाह किबरिया में दुआ की उठा के गार ए खालिक ज़मीनों ज़मारा पे पाक
जालिमों के हाथ से कासिम को देना जा
जालिमों के हाथ से
कासिम को देना जा
वो हाफ़िज़े जहां है करीम रहीम है यार बचा सके
बच्चा यतीम
यार बचा सके
बच्चा यतीम है
निकला ये सबके मुँह से के है गसन के लाए ज़ैनब ने उठ के खोल दिए अपने सर के बाल सीने में हिल गया दिले बानू ये खुश साज
चिल्लाई माँ गुजर गया क्या मेरा नौने
चिल्लाई माँ गुजर गया क्या मेरा
नौने
आबिद का तप से गर्म बदन सर्द हो गया
कासिम के छोटे भाई का मुंह दर्द हो गया
कासिम के
छोटे भाई का मुंह दर्द हो गया
चिल्लाई रोके जो जाए अब्बास नौजवान यार है तू यतीम गसन का निगाहबान सुन कर ये गुल दुल्हन के भी आंसू हुए रवान
करबलाए सास पुकारी के मेरी जान
करबलाए सास पुकारी के
मेरी जान
हाल करेगा रहना आओ बुका करो दूल्हा पे आ बनी है
सके दुआ करो
दूल्हा पे आ बनी है सके दुआ करो इस इस्तिराम में जो सुना सास का सुखान जालू से सर उठा के हुई क़िबला रू दुल्हन आहिस्ता की अर्ज के ए रब जुल्मना दुश्मन पे
फतया बोलते दिले हसन
दुश्मन पे फतया बोलते
दिले हसन
लड़ने गए कृष्णा दबन तेरी राह में रख मेरे
हमको तू अपनी पनाह
रख मेरे
हमको तू अपनी पनाह में
अर्श में झुका फरस पे जो वो गैरत कमार मारा किसी ने फर्क पा एक गुर्जतान कर बरछी लगी जो शीश की टुकड़े हुआ जिगर
गिरते थे अब्से के कमर पर लगाता
गिरते थे
अब्से के कमर पर लगाता
तार की देखा के पुकारे इमाम
को
फरियाद या हुसैन बचा लो गुलाम फरियाद या हुसैन
बचा लो गुलाम को
झपटे जो शाह पोछ पा चमका के जुल्फ़िकार बिजली गिरी यजीद के लश्कर पर एक बार इस गैस में यमीन से जो आए सुए सार
भागे फिरा के घोड़ों की भागों को सब
भागे फिरा के घोड़ों की
भागों को सब
भागड़ में खुश रहने की जमीन लाल हो दूल्हा की लाश घोड़ों से पामाल हो गई दूल्हा की लाश घोड़ों से पामाल हो गई
please recite Surah Fatiha for the following marhumin: Sayyid Athar Hussain Rizvi, Ibn Sayyid Ata Hussain Rizvi, Hassan Ali Jiwaji, Amina Hassan Jiwaji, Qasim Ali Daryani, Sakina Daryani, and all of your marhumin and marhumat. Ma'as-salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على البشير النذير والسراج المنير خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وأنيس نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ومنكر فضائلهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر مصائبهم أجمعين إلى آن قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إن الحسن والحسين إماما إن قام وإن قعد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Like I mentioned at the start of every speech, as a reminder for myself and for everyone present here, the goal of my speeches is to shed some light on the issues that are often the subject of doubt for the young ones of our community, for the brothers who are of my age and the ones who are younger than me. As for the adults and my elders who are present here with us today, my speeches are mere reminders and perhaps a new approach for you to be able to answer the doubts of the youth of this community. With that in mind, the hadith of Rasulullah that I've taken as the starting point of our discussion today is the famous hadith wherein Rasulullah says, surely Hassan and Hussain are the imams, whether they rise in revolution or whether they stand or sit, literally. But the tashri' of this hadith that has been presented by scholars, by qama, Rasulullah means rising in revolution, and qa'ada means to stay silent while there is a need for revolution. The doubts that are raised in the minds of the youth have not existed in this age. They've been there since the times of the imams, where there has been a conscious effort to bring down the position of the imam, raise the position of their enemies, and to do a proper character assassination of the personalities of Ahlul Bayt. Whether that be by coming up with false ahadith regarding Rasulullah or Amir al-Mu'mineen, or denying the rights of Sayyida Zahra and ignoring her words during the sermon of Fadak, or whether that be in regards to the decision of Imam al-Hassan to not continue the war against Muawiyah. Now, it can be argued that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba is perhaps the most oppressed person amongst the Ahlul Bayt in this regard. Meaning what? The amount of misconceptions about the character of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba that have been raised by the Mukhalifin is unreal. But the more unfortunate fact is that there are some historians who claim to follow the path of Ahlul Bayt who have come out and stated such doubts as facts, without considering some key aspects of history. For example, it's been stated by these historians that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba did not have the military might to continue the fight against Muawiyah, or that he did not have the military tactic or techniques needed to continue the fight, or accusations such as the Imam did not have the courage to continue fighting. That Imam did not have the bravery needed. The son of Ali, the grandson of Rasulullah, did not have the courage needed to fight the enemies of Allah. Such accusations have been present in Muslim history, can be found in Muslim history from the time Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba was alive and after his death, throughout time. So tonight, we will look at some key points in history where Imam al-Hassan has showed his bravery. Point number one in history that we see Imam al-Hassan has demonstrated his courage in the battlefield is after the Khilafah of Amir al-Mu'mineen was established, the apparent Khilafah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, in year 35 Hijrah. Right? But before we look at that, please recite Allah sallallahu. As soon as Mawla Ali started his government, his enemies started appearing. But the enemies were of two types. The first type of enemy were the enemies who had animosities from the time of Rasulullah. Right? From those people whose family members were killed at the hands of Amir al-Mu'mineen by Hizb al-Fiqar when he used to fight against their families with Rasulullah. People like Muawiyah. Right? The second type of animosity was because of Mawla Ali's justice. Right? In fact, the first thing Amir al-Mu'mineen did once he came to power was dismiss the officials of the government. The governors and the people who were running the government were dismissed. Why? Two bases. One, either they weren't worthy of the position, they weren't qualified for the position. I am, as most people are familiar with it, I'm a student of biology. I've studied science. If you ask me to go and run the government, I won't be able to do it. Similarly, if someone's profession was to herd donkeys, if you ask them to go and run the government, they cannot do it. They're not worthy of it. They're not qualified to do it. Right? And the other group of people who Imam Ali alayhi salam kicked out of their positions were who? Were the people who took the position and then corrupted it. Corrupted how? By stealing from the Baytul Mal. By stealing the rights and the property of the public. There were people during the time when Imam Ali took the reins of the Muslim Ummah. During that time, there were people living in extreme poverty. People were homeless. People did not have jobs. Not problems that we are not familiar with. We see it in every era. Why? Because there wasn't a divine leader to guide people. Imam Ali started firing all these people. What did he say? Even if you pay the mahr of your wives after your nikah with this money, I will take it back from you. Meaning even that, Imam Ali is not letting, would not let them be forgiven, would not let them get away with it. In fact, when these people came to Imam Ali and they insisted that Imam Ali takes power, what did Imam Ali say? You won't be able to bear my justice. Your hands pay allegiance to me today, but your hearts will turn away from me tomorrow. Imam Ali made it clear to them. But then there were people like who? Talha and Zubair, who saw the justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. How did they see the justice? A famous story. Sure, most of us have heard of it. But just to refresh our memories. These people were aspirants of positions of power. And don't get me wrong, these people were supporters of Imam Ali from the time of the Prophet. In fact, the traditions that talk about the attack on the house of Bibi Fatima mention these two names, Talha and Zubair, as those who supported Amir al-Mu'mineen. In fact, these were the people in the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen supporting him. But times had changed such that all these years later, hope of dunya, it was getting to them. So they come to Amir al-Mu'mineen with the desire to gain governorship. But as soon as they come, Amir al-Mu'mineen asks them, is this an official visit or is this a personal visit? They say it's a personal visit, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. We are here to visit you. But in reality, they had a different intention. So what does Amir al-Mu'mineen say? Wait a few minutes. He was finishing some job, some work, some official business. He finished that work and then he turned the lamp off. He put that lamp away and then turned another lamp. He lit that lamp, and when they asked, why did you do this? He said, well, that lamp was from the money of the Bayt al-Mal. It was for official business. This lamp is for my own money. So I will use this for personal business. This was the adala of Amir al-Mu'mineen. When they saw this, they went away knowing that we won't get anything from the world from Ali's story. Right? And after that, they started plotting. How did they plot? They decided to go to their mother in Makkah. It was a season of Hajj. And they came to Amir al-Mu'mineen with the excuse of Hajj. They were trying to escape. They were trying to go and join the biggest of plotters from them. Imam Ali alayhi salam, in public, he tells them, you know your intention is not Hajj, so do not go and do not cause fitna in the community. But they insist that their only intention is Hajj. So Amir al-Mu'mineen, in order to show their hypocrisy in public, in the masjid, asked them to pay their allegiance again. So for a second time, they came and they paid allegiance to Amir al-Mu'mineen. In public, out loud. So that the people know that when these people break their oath of allegiance, that they were always hypocrites. Right? After that, they go to Makkah and they join who? Aisha. Now, it's important to bear in mind that when we talk about these personalities, we're not trying to cause trouble in the community. We're not trying to cause divisions in the community. It's our moral responsibility, it's our academic and ethical and moral responsibility that we talk about these things in a historical fashion so that we can deduce who was right and who was wrong. So we can be from those who are with the truth, with haqq. So when these people, they go to Mecca, they join their leader Aisha, and they head towards Basra without doing Hajj, just like Imam Ali alayhi salam said. And on the way, remember the two types of enemies that Amir al-Mu'mineen had? They started gathering them. They started amassing an army. When they reached Basra, they started looting the city. They ransacked the city. In fact, Aisha herself ordered the killing of 70 Muslims, including the governor of Basra that Imam Ali appointed. And not only killed him, but she had his beard pulled off his face. A painful death. Is this the character of the wife of the Prophet? Is this who we're supposed to follow? A person who commits oppression without any justification? And what was their justification? So that it's clear in our minds. She raised the slogan, revenge for Usman. But it was ironic. Why? Because she was the one, and it's written in Sunni books, including Tariq al-Tabari, that Aisha was the one who instigated the uprising against Usman. She was the one who inspired people to go and put a siege around Usman's palace. And Zubair, he was one of the leaders of that uprising. In fact, traditions tell us that when his palace was invaded and when people entered his palace, the first person to capture the treasury of Usman was Zubair. Ironic that they raised a revolution claiming that they were seeking the revenge for Usman's blood. In any case, once that happened, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he sent his son, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, where? To Kufa. Why? Because at that point the capital wasn't Kufa, it was Medina. So Imam Ali was based in Medina. He sent his son Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba to do what? Two things. Raise an army, to gather people, and to meet him in Basra. Now my question is, if Imam Hassan did not have the military tactics, if he did not have the military education needed to show his courage on the battlefield, why would Imam Ali entrust such an important task to the son of his? The fact that Imam Ali entrusted this azim responsibility to his son Imam Hassan shows that he had the prowess, he had the expertise needed to raise and train an army. He met Imam Ali alayhi salam where? In Basra, at the gate of Basra. And then the battle began. The Battle of Jamal was an extremely costly event in Islamic history. It was the first civil war in the Muslim Ummah. 25,000 people, by the lowest of estimates, were killed in this battle. 20,000 from the side of Aisha's army, and 5,000 from the side of Amir al-Mu'minine's army. So when Imam Ali saw the death toll, he looked at the army and he said, that camel on which the commander of this army has come, that is the source of fitna. That has become a qibla. That has become a source of idol worship. Why? Because there were people guarding just one camel. There was a red-haired camel named Askar on which Aisha was mounted. It was being protected, and as long as this camel was there, people had the will to fight. It was being protected by three tribes. The tribes of Az, the tribe of Nijjah, and the tribe of Vapa. These three tribes were defending her with their life. So Imam Ali said, the only way to stop this, end this battle, end this war, is by cutting this camel down. So who does he entrust with this responsibility? First, he asked Muhammad al-Hanafiya to do the job. Mentioned in the biography of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba by Sheikh Baqir Sharif Qurashi, which is also translated in English and available online. Everyone can read it. Imam Ali alayhi salam gives the spear to who? Muhammad al-Hanafiya, who was the leader, who was the captain of the center wing of the army. Imam tells him that this is the source, this is the idol they've made, go and get this down, get this camel down. Muhammad Hanafiya goes, but they were fighting so ferociously that his attack fails. He returns. So what does Sheikh Baqir Sharif write? He says that at that point, Imam Ali took the spear from Muhammad Hanafiya and gave it to Imam al-Hassan. Now, when Imam al-Hassan gets the spear, he takes his little group and he attacks them so ferociously. He uses his spear to such an efficiency that before anyone can match his speed, he's already penetrated the lines of the enemies. And he's reached the camel. What does he do as soon as he reaches the camel? He stabs it in the neck. Now, anyone who's seen in Pakistan or elsewhere the sacrifice of a camel, the way to kill a camel is to thrust a knife in its neck. That's what Imam Hassan does. He takes a spear, he thrusts it in the neck of the camel, now the camel is falling. But in order to ease the fall of this corrupt and vicious lady, because even though she was a fitnagar of the community, she was still a symbol for these people. And in order to calm them down, Imam Ali sent Malik al-Ashtar. What did Malik al-Ashtar do? He sliced the feet of this camel so that her fall can be easier. And then he made it a lot easier. He sent who? Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, who was her mahram, who was her brother, to do what? To break the fall. So as she fell from the camel, Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr came and he took her in his arms. At that point, she started yelling, "Oh Muslims, what is wrong with you? I'm the wife of your Prophet." And Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr says, "Oh woman who has lost her faculty, I'm your brother, look at me." This is the amount of care Imam Ali put in this matter. But the courage of Imam al-Hassan, the task that no one was able to do, in order to end this war, 25,000 people were killed. But Imam al-Hassan was able to do it in a matter of few minutes. When the battle finished and Imam Ali saw the dead body of Askar the camel, said, "Burn it and spread its ashes, for this is an idol." Why? These people were so blinded in their disbelief that they used to take the dung of this camel and use it as perfume. They used to take it as tabarruk. This was their aql. And same people are the ones who, out of the animosity against Imam Hassan, started raising questions and doubts regarding the courage of Muhammad. The second point of history where Imam Hassan shows his courage in the battlefield is the Battle of Siffin. In a rush for Allah? Please recite Allah sallallahu. It's only Allah. The second point of history where Imam Hassan alayhi salam shows his military courage is the Battle of Siffin. I've given a lecture on this, again, with my very basic knowledge, but one thing that we've made clear was this battle was really long. The longest estimate says it was over a year, in which there was a lot of waiting, but a lot of small skirmishes that took place. During these skirmishes, the first ever skirmish that happened during the Battle of Siffin, Imam Ali alayhi salam himself fought the battle. During this battle, the Kufan army says it felt like from the east to the west, there were only spears. That's how big the army of Sham was. But during this first encounter, Amir al-Mu'mineen came out alone. He was wearing the same armor he wore during the Battle of Badr, and the same helmet that he wore during the Battle of Khaybar. And he pulled his Zulfiqar out, and he fought. He attacked the east, he attacked the west, he attacked the north, he attacked the center. The enemies were fleeing. Right? They were going to Muawiyah, and Muawiyah was asking, how big is the army of Kufa that you guys are running away with such fright? You say, every single person, whether that ran from the east wing or the west wing or the center wing or the north wing of the army, every single one said, when we turned around to see who was attacking us, we only saw Ali. It was only Mawla Ali who was attacking during that fight. And when this skirmish ended, Imam Ali never chased anyone down. When it ended, these people said that we will only fight if anyone fights but Ali. Anyone fights but Mawla Ali. So that's why in this battle we got a chance to see the bravery of the sons of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Muhammad al-Hanafiya, Imam Hassan, Haider Abbas. The battle of Haider Abbas cannot be imagined by us. Because when he came out to fight, his face was covered and everyone thought it was Amir al-Mu'mineen fighting. But we want to talk about the attack of Imam Hassan. A skirmish that took place, Imam al-Hassan was in charge of the group. The reason why their battalions or an army is organized in groups, battalions, and little units of 50 or 100 soldiers is because if these soldiers are as a group, they cannot be defeated. Once you break this battalion, that group is defeated. The army breaks. If 20 people go this way, 10 people go this way, the strength of the battalion breaks. When Imam al-Hassan had attacked the army of Sham, the narrators tell us that he was using a sword and a spear, and he was using it to such a skill that he was already way ahead of the battalion, and the battalion was having a hard time to keep up with the Imam. That's how brave the Imam was. That's how skilled the Imam was. To the point that in Nahj al-Balagha, there's a sermon where Imam Ali says, he commands his army to call Imam Hassan back, for he feared that he would be harmed, and by harming him, they would harm Amir al-Mu'minin. The courage of Imam Hassan. So courageous, so skillful, such a brave warrior, that because of his skill, his attack had to be stopped. But not only was he brave, not only was he courageous, he had other qualities. His ilm, his wisdom. Look, I have a story actually. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. During the Battle of Siffin, and that's why I bring the story up here. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam says that during the Battle of Siffin, the Roman Emperor heard of the conflict in the Muslim Ummah. Now there are two claimants of Khilafat. So he asked his advisor, what is going on? Explain to me what's happening in the Muslim world. So there are two claimants of Khilafat. There's one who's in Sham, and there's one who's the Kufan army of Iraq. So he hears the whole description. He says, are there anyone who are traveling within my lands from the Muslim world? So the advisor went to look around. He found a Syrian trader, and he found an Iraqi trader, very convenient for him. They were brought to the Emperor of Rome, the Roman Emperor, and he asked, tell me about the claimants of Khilafat from both your camps. So the Syrian person describes Muawiyah, and the Iraqi person describes Mawla Ali. After hearing their descriptions, the Roman Emperor says that it seems to me that truth is with Ali. Even the Roman Emperor knows. So he writes letters. He writes a letter to Muawiyah, and he writes a letter to Amir al-Mu'minin. He says, send me the wisest people from your family. And it's Imam Jafar Sadiq saying. Imam says that Muawiyah sent his son Yazid, and Imam Hassan sent his son, Imam Ali sent his son Imam Hassan. When these two came, the Roman Emperor said that I have a few questions for the brother, okay? And he asked Imam Hassan to leave the room so that he could first ask the questions to Yazid. Now, as soon as Imam Hassan leaves, the Roman Emperor says, bring out the caskets from the treasury. These caskets, 313 caskets that had images in them, pictures, drawings of the faces of the Anbiya and the Awliya that have come before Rasulullah. Right? I don't know how he obtained it, but he obtained it. Now, when he showed Yazid these faces, he opened every casket and he showed, who is this? Who is this? Right? So he showed him these images. Yazid could not recognize them. Then he asked him a few questions. Tell me those who are born without a mother or a father. Tell me where does the sustenance come from? Tell me where do the souls go of the believers and where do the souls of the disbelievers go? He said, I don't know. I have no idea. So with him present, Imam Hassan is being summoned. And now he says, I asked him questions from the Torah, from the Old Testament, and he couldn't answer. Based on this, I know that he does not know what you know, and his father does not know what your father knows. Meaning he's admitting that Imam Hassan and Imam Ali are already on the right path. But Imam Hassan says, ask me whatever you want, I'll answer your questions. So now, this person opens the caskets again. Now Imam Hassan sees the caskets. He says the first one is Adam. The next one is his son Shis. He was a prophet. He lived for 1,040 years. Now what is the question? Who are they? Not how old they are. But Imam Hassan is providing more information than that is being asked. This is Shis. He lived for 1,040 years. This is Nuh. He lived for 2,400 years, out of which 950 were his years of prophethood. The same thing that's found in the Holy Quran, right? Imam Hassan al-Islam is telling them. But what is important to think about is Imam Hassan is recognizing by face. How do you recognize someone by face? If you've seen someone, then you can recognize someone by the face. The fact that Imam Hassan is able to recognize these people means that Imam Hassan has seen them. When has he seen them? The fact of the matter is that Imam Hassan was the first creation of Allah, and hence when Adam came, Imam Hassan saw him. When Shis came, Imam Hassan saw him. When Nuh came, Imam Hassan saw him. When all of the prophets came, Imam Hassan saw him. The next two caskets were of Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Musa. He said Musa lived for 240 years. Between him and Hazrat Ibrahim, there was a time gap of 500 years. Then they showed the faces of the prophets of Bani Israel, Hazrat Yaqub, Hazrat Shoaib, Hazrat Zakaria, Hazrat Yahya, all of their faces Imam recognized. Until they showed the face of Prophet Isa, and he said, this is Isa ibn Maryam. He lived on this earth for 33 years, and he was raised onto the sky. When he will return in the last era, he will kill Dajjal. Right? Imam says all of these things. Now, this person, he asks, he says that I testify that you are the heir of the knowledge of the prophets. The Roman emperor is testifying. Then he shows the faces of the awliya, but then he shows his face. Imam Hassan sees it and he starts crying. He says, this is the face of my grandfather Rasulullah. He lived on this earth for 63 years, and he was the peak of all good characteristics that you can imagine. And then he says he did not leave behind him inheritance except a ring that had the kalima on it, a cloak, the zulfiqar, and a turban. So he says that I've read in the Injil that the last prophet would leave behind inheritance to his daughter. Did this happen? He said yes. He said, you are the son of this daughter. Did you get your right? Did you get your inheritance? No. Then the Roman emperor calculates in his mind. He's heard about what has happened after the prophet, so he says, what I'm understanding from this is that the two fitnas that came after the prophet died, and he names them Umar and Abu Bakr, they took your right from you when you were more rightful for this than them. So now what? The Roman emperor, who is not a Muslim, or apparently not a Muslim, has both testified to the love of Ahlul Bayt, acknowledging their rights, and done what? Tabaga. He has shown his dissociation from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. This is the Roman emperor we're talking about. Then why is it that the Muslim world has such a problem for acknowledging the rights of Amir al-Mu'mineen of Imam Hassan and disassociating themselves from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt? Now he goes on to ask these questions. He says, tell me about the ones who were born without a father or a mother. So he gives 7 names. This incident has happened with multiple people. Imam Hussain says the first two, Adam and Hawa, they were created by Allah, they have neither father nor mother. The third being that was created without parents was the ram, which was replaced for Hazrat Ibrahim when he was about to slaughter his son Ismail. The fourth is a she-camel of Hazrat Saleh, right, that came out of the mountain without a father or mother. The fifth, the python of Prophet Musa. It came with the permission of Allah when he wanted to show the Moses of Allah. He threw the stick on the ground and it turned into a python. A snake, without a father or mother. The seventh is the crow that showed Habil how to bury Habil. This is a story that's not often told, so I'm really quickly going to mention it. When Habil was killed by Habil, when Allah wanted to test these two brothers, Habil presented a sacrifice that was perfect, and Habil presented a sacrifice that was faulty, that had aib in them, had imperfections in them. Allah accepted the sacrifice of Habil and did not accept Habil. So he was jealous, he ended up murdering his brother. This was the first murder of the human history. Now Habil's body was left there, and Habil was carrying him around from here to there, not knowing how to dispose of it. So when he reached in the outskirts of Sham, near Turkey, he saw that a crow came and it started digging a hole, and it brought another crow and it put it in the ground, and then it covered it with earth. This was how Habil understood that he's to bury Habil. So Imam says that this crow that Allah sent was born without a mother or a father. After this he asked, tell me about the sustenance. Where is it and how do people get it? Imam says that it is on the 4th heaven, and Allah sends it down to earth in estimations, and He's allotted it for people. So every year during Laylatul Qadr, the sustenance that is meant for mankind comes down onto the earth, and then it's distributed amongst the masses. Imam Hussain explains this too. And then he asks, what about the souls of the believers? Where do they go? Imam explains that the souls of the believers, they go to Baytul Muqaddas. After they die, their souls are collected in Baytul Muqaddas. What about the souls of the disbelievers? They go to a certain valley in Yemen, and their souls are being collected there. Until such a time when the day of judgment comes, and Allah will have 2 pillars of fire raised in the east and the west, and those who were on the right, who were believers, their souls will go to Jannah from Baytul Muqaddas, and those who were on the wrong, the infidels, the disbelievers, their souls will go to Jahannam from that valley in Yemen. After hearing all of this, he calls Yazid. He says, do you see the answers he gave? I swear to Allah, I swear to the God, that every single answer he gave is mentioned in the books of the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the books of Bani Israel. Imam Jafar Sadiq says that Yazid left there, from there in disgrace. He was ashamed. He put his head down, and he left. And as a result, the Emperor of Rome said something. He said, pray for me that I accept your grandfather's religion. The love of this world and the position of leadership is preventing me from accepting it openly. It's the Majlis of Imam Hassan. His wisdom, his knowledge was such that it turned the Emperor of Rome, not a common merchant of Rome, the Emperor of Rome was able to see truth through him, was able to see haqq through him. So not only was Imam Hassan brave and courageous, he was also wise and extremely knowledgeable. His ihsans on the world of Islam, on the world of Muslims, are unimaginable. Not even a single one of them can be accounted for. Even in the Battle of Nahrawan, there were 4 crucial points that the army of Imam Ali had to hold. One of them was defended by Imam Hassan al-Islam. We don't have time to go into the details. If we make some other time. The third point, in order to discuss the courage of Imam Hassan, after Imam Ali al-Islam was killed, Imam Hassan al-Islam became the apparent caliph for a few months. But after the Battle of Siffin had ended the way it did, Muawiyah was again gathering his army to attack the Muslims again, and Imam Hassan declared war against him. He started assembling his army. He met in Nuqayla, where fitna started to arise within his own camps. And Muawiyah started writing letters to the commanders of Imam Hassan's army, bribing them, giving them incentives to abandon Imam Hassan. 2 really famous people who betrayed Imam Hassan there was Ashas ibn Qais and Shabbas ibn Rabi. Shabbas ibn Rabi was one of the people who were present in Karbala and who had attacked and struck Imam Hussain on the day of Ashas ibn Qais, his family is the enemy of the family of Rasulullah. He himself betrayed Amir al-Mu'mineen. His daughter was the one who killed Imam al-Hassan. His son Muhammad ibn Ashas was there in Karbala on the day of Ashura fighting against Imam al-Hassan. These 2 people, when they get letters from Muawiyah, he promised them 100,000 gold coins for one thing: for assassinating Imam al-Hassan, or to turn him over, capture him and turn him over. So they write a letter back. They say, we agree to your terms. They'll do it. We're looking for the best opportunity to either kill Hassan or capture him and send him to you. What did Muawiyah do? In order to discourage Imam Hassan, he took these letters and he had them delivered to Imam Hassan, show him the type of treason that was happening in his own ranks, to just discourage him and to scare him and to send him away. But what did Imam Hassan do? After reading those letters, he only wore the breastplate of his armor. He comes out of his tent and he leads Jama'at. When you read Jama'at, when Imam Ali was struck, he was struck from the back, right? So if there's a threat for assassination, the logical thing to do is when you're going to lead the Jama'at, you wear something to protect your back. But Imam Hassan doesn't do that. He wears the breastplate, he comes out, he leads Jama'at. If you wouldn't call such a man courageous, what would you call him? If it was some other leader of this world and such a situation arose, they would call extra guards, they would go into hiding, they would find other ways to save their lives. But Imam Hassan did not fear that. He faced them. But the biggest maslumiyat of Imam Hassan is that not only did his commanders betray him, his own family betrayed him. Even after Imam Hassan did the sulh with Muawiyah wasn't content. The existence of Imam Hassan was a threat to his rule. So he sent multiple people to poison Imam Hassan. But it was one of his mu'jizahs, his miracles, that at least 4 times or 7 times, Imam al-Hassan recognized the poison and he was saved by the mercy of Allah. But then Muawiyah wrote a letter to one of the kings in Europe, and he said, send me your strongest poisons, the most vicious poisons you have. And he wrote a letter to who? The wife of Imam Jawda bint Ashas, saying what? I promise you land and property in Kufa, I promise you 10,000 dirhams, 10,000 gold coins, and I promise you a marriage to my son Yazid. With that, he bought the loyalty of Jawda. ये लईना वो थी कि कि जिसने इमाम हसन को वो जहर लगा दिया जिसके बाद इमाम खून की उल्टियां करते हैं। तारीख बताती है कि जब इस लईना ने पानी के जाम में जहर को दिया, रावी कहता है कि मैंने आके देखा कि इमाम की तबीयत खराब थी। इमाम ने पूछा क्या चाहते हो? मैंने कहा फर्जंद रसूल मेरा सवाल था, मगर आपकी तबीयत नासाज है, आपकी तबीयत जब ठीक हो जाएगी जब मैं आपसे सवाल कर लूँगा। इमाम ने उससे रुकने के लिए कहा। इमाम हुजरे से गए और एक तश में आप उल्टी करने लगे, आप खून की उल्टी करने लगे। जब वो लौट कर आए तो इस शख्स से फिर पूछा कि क्या चाहते हो? इसने कहा कि मौला मेरा सवाल है मगर मैं बाद में पूछ लूँगा। मौला ने कहा कि अभी पूछ ले, बाद में मौका नहीं मिलेगा। मैं जब अभी उल्टी कर रहा था तो मेरे जिगर के टुकड़े तश में निकल रहे थे। अज़ादारों, एक शहीद का जिक्र करना है जिसका हुक्म दिया गया है, मगर उसके मसायब करबला में नहीं शुरू होते हैं। उस शहीद के मसायब तो मदीने में शुरू हुए हैं। रावी कहता है कि जब मौला हसन अपने बिस्तर पर तड़प रहे थे तो एक मर्तबा कासिम आकर आपके सीने पर सवार हो गए थे। जनाब उम्मे फरवा ने कहा कि बेटा कासिम, बाबा के सीने में तकलीफ है। मौला ने कहा नहीं फरवा, कासिम को मत हटाना। कासिम के मेरे सीने पर बैठने से मुझे सुकून मिलता है। अज़ादारों, मौला हसन ने कासिम के लिए तावीज़ लिखी थी ना, और क्या कहा था कि कासिम इसे जब खोलना जब मुसीबत सबसे ज्यादा उरूज पर हो, जब मुसीबत बढ़ जाए तो इस तावीज़ को खोलना। अज़ादारों, मौला ने तावीज़ तो लिख दी। 3 साल की उम्र में कासिम यतीम हो गए, मगर कासिम ने कौन सा मंजर देखा? जब बाबा का जनाजा घर से निकला तो कुछ देर के बाद घर में लौट कर आ गया। ये इसीलिए क्योंकि मौला हसन के जनाजे पर उस जमल की मलूना ने तीर बरसाए थे। मौला हसन के जनाजे पर 70 तीर लगे थे। कासिम ने ये मंजर देखा था, मगर इसके बाद मौला हुसैन ने कभी कासिम को यतीमी का एहसास नहीं होने दिया। अज़ादारों, मौला हसन के यतीम के साथ इमाम हुसैन इतनी शफकत से पेश आते थे कि कभी इनके सामने अपने बेटों से प्यार नहीं करते थे। मगर कासिम को इस लम्हे के बाद सबसे ज्यादा यतीमी का एहसास कब हुआ? जब रोज़े आशूर कासिम जो मैदान में जाना चाहते थे और हुसैन इजाजत नहीं देते कि कासिम तुम तो मेरे भैया हसन की निशानी हो, कासिम मैं तुम्हें किस तरह इजाजत दूं? अज़ादारों, ये वो वक्त है जब कासिम को एहसास यतीमी हुआ। कासिम अपने सर को अपने घुटनों के दरमियान रख के रो रहे थे। जब जनाब फरवा के कानों में बेटे की रोने की आवाज आई, जनाब फरवा ने आकर पूछा। हजरत कासिम ने बताया कि मम्मा मुझे चचा मुझे लड़ने की इजाजत नहीं देते। एक मर्तबा जनाब फरवा ने कहा कासिम, वो तावीज़ जो हाथ पे बनी है उसे खोल लो, इससे ज्यादा मुसीबत का वक्त नहीं हो सकता। कासिम ने अब जो खत को खोला, तावीज़ को खोला, कासिम पढ़ने लगे। तारीख बताती है कि इस तावीज़ में लिखा था कि ऐ कासिम, जब कभी अपने चचा हुसैन को गुर्बत के आलम में पाना, जब उन्हें तन्हा पाना, जब उन्हें मजलूम पाना, जब उन्हें प्यासा पाना, तो अपने आप को चचा पे कुर्बान कर देना। बस कासिम बाबा का खत लिए चचा के पास आए। तारीख बताती है उनके मौला हसन का खत पढ़कर इमाम हुसैन कासिम से लिपट कर रोए। तारीख का जुमला है, मख्तल कहता है फगशहुमा, दोनों भी बेहोश होकर गिर गए। अज़ादारों, मैं सवाल करूंगा कि जब कभी कोई बेहोश होता है तो पानी से उसे होश में लाया जाता है। करबला में तो पानी भी नहीं था। आखिर किस तरह हुसैन और कासिम को अज़ादारों, बस मौला हसन के इस शहजादे को अपने मौला हुसैन ने तैयार किया, अपने हाथों से तैयार किया, घोड़े पर सवार कराया, कासिम मैदान की तरफ चले हैं। मौला हसन की शुजाअत याद दिलाई है। फौजें भाग रही थी कासिम की शुजाअत से, लेकिन वो वक्त भी आया कि कासिम प्यासे थे ना, कासिम के पुष्ट से एक तबर का वार हुआ, कासिम के सर पर तलवार का वार हुआ। अब कासिम घोड़े पर संभल न सके, घोड़े की जीन से गिरने लगे। आवाज दी, चचा जान मेरी मदद को आइए। खराबी कहता है जैसे ही कासिम की आवाज आई, एक तरफ से हुसैन ने हमला किया, एक तरफ से अब्बास ने हमला किया। वो जो लश्कर वाले सिफ्तीन में दौड़े थे, फिर करबला में दौड़ने लगे। कासिम अपनी जिंदगी में घोड़ों के तले पामाल हुए, मगर एक रावी कहता है कासिम पामाल नहीं हुए, कासिम घोड़ों की टापों से पिसते। अज़ादारों, मैं हाथ जोड़ के कहूंगा मौला कासिम, घोड़ों के नीचे पामाल होना आसान था। शराबी के दरबार में ज़ैनब का बेमखना चादर जाना बड़ा मुश्किल था। अज़ादारों, आज पहली सफर है, बस 2 जुमले इस तारीख के हवाले सुन ले। खुदा की कसम, ये तारीख आशूरा से कम नहीं, क्योंकि ये वो दिन है कि जब अहले हरम का लुटा हुआ काफिला शाम पहुंचा था। तारीख में लिखा है कि बाजार से लेकर दरबार यजीद तक 40 कदम का फासला है, मगर बिन्ते अली को यह फासला तय करने 3 दिन लग गए, क्योंकि इतना हुजूम था कि नाके आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते थे, बागियों के नारे थे। शाम का शहर दुल्हन की तरह तैयार था, माजूम तमाशाई मौजूद थे। कोई आग फेंकता, कोई पत्थर मारता, कोई खोलता हुआ पानी फेंकता। इसी असना में तारीख में मिलता है कि एक शामी औरत ने बढ़कर कहा, ऐ शिमर, मेरे भाई को और मेरे शौहर को सिफ्तीन में अली ने कत्ल किया, मैं सिफ्तीन का बदला लेना चाहती हूँ। अज़ादारों, वो शिमर जिसने कूफा से शाम कभी काफिला न रोका, उसने काफिला रोका। शामी औरत ने अपने हाथ में एक पत्थर लिया, हुसैन के सर पे मारा, फिर एक बार सरे हुसैन नौके नेज़ा से जमीन। अज़ादारों, बस एक जुमला शाम के दरबार का हाल सुन ले। जब जनाबे ज़ैनब दरबार में आई है ना, तो बस इतना सुन ले कि जब जनाबे ज़ैनब खड़ी थी तो शिमर बढ़ बढ़कर हर बीबी का तारुफ करा रहा था। हर बीबी जनाबे ज़ैनब के पीछे छिप रही थी। एक मर्तबा उम्मे कुलसूम से जनाबे ज़ैनब ने कहा, वो जो यजीद के बाजू खड़ी है, क्या मुझे पहचानती हो? जनाबे उम्मे कुलसूम ने कहा, मुझे नहीं मालूम, मैं नहीं देख सकती। एक मर्तबा जनाबे ज़ैनब ने कहा, ये हिंद है कि जिसे हमने पर्दा सिखाया। एक मर्तबा रावी कहता है कि हिंद ने बढ़कर सवाल किया, कैदियों कहाँ के रहने वाले हो? जनाबे ज़ैनब ने कहा कि हम मदीने के रहने वाले हैं। ये कहना था, हिंद तख्त से जमीन पर आ गई। एक जनाबे ज़ैनब ने पूछा कि ये क्यों किया? हिंद कहने लगी कि मदीने वालों के एहतराम में जमीन पर आ गई हूँ, जमीन पर आ गई हूँ। एक मर्तबा कहा कि मदीने वालों, तुम्हारे शहर वालों के बारे में पूछूंगी तो बताओगे? जनाबे ज़ैनब ने पूछा, किसका हाल जानना चाहती है? कहा, मदीने में मेरा आका हुसैन रहता है, बड़ी ख्वाहिश है कि उसकी ज़ियारत करो। एक मर्तबा जनाब ज़ैनब ने पूछा, और किसके बारे में पूछना चाहती हो? एक मर्तबा हिंद ने कहा कि मेरे मौला का एक जवान बेटा है, नाम अली अकबर है। और किसके बारे में? मेरे मौला का एक और बेटा है जिसका नाम सज्जाद है, जिसका नाम अली है, लक़ब सज्जाद है। और किसके बारे में? मेरे मौला का एक भाई है, नाम अब्बास है, बड़ा खत आवर है, बड़ा खूबसूरत है। एक मर्तबा जनाब ज़ैनब से रहा न गया, कहा है हिंद, क्या अपने मौला की बहनों का न पूछोगी? हिंद ने जलाल में आकर कहा, खबरदार मेरी शहजादियों का नाम इस शराबी के दरबार में ना लेना। अब ये कहना था, ज़ैनब ने अपने बालों का पर्दा हटाया। ऐ हिंद, मैं तेरी शहजादी ज़ैनब, ये कहना था। हिंद ने अपनी रिदा को फेंका। ऐ यजीद, जिसने पर्दा सिखाया उसी को बेरिदा बनवाया।
तलवारों के नीचे सोने वाले आज नबी का, सोने वाले आज नबी का, सोने वाले आज नबी का, बिस्तर तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम। गुरबत में जा दे दी लेके, गुरबत में जा दे दी लेके, गुरबत में जा दे दी लेकिन दामन हाल न छोड़ा, आखिर फाकर फख्र की दौलत, आखिर फाकर फख्र की दौलत, आखिर फाकर फख्र की दौलत, गुज़र तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम। सहरे का अरमान है दिल में, सहरे का अरमान है दिल में, सहरे का अरमान है दिल में, माँ को क्या मालूम मौत जवानी में लिखती है, मौत जवानी में लिखती है, मौत जवानी में लिखती है, अकबर तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम। सर नंगे है जाने वाली, सर नंगे है जाने वाली, सर नंगे है जाने वाली, बाज़ारे कूफा में कुदरत ने तत्हीर की लिख दी, कुदरत ने तत्हीर की लिख दी, कुदरत ने तत्हीर की लिख दी, चादर तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम। चांद सा चेहरा खून में गलता, चांद सा चेहरा खून में गलता, सा चेहरा खून में गलता, बाप का बाजू जख्मी, प्यास की शिद्दत मौत की लज़्ज़त, प्यास की शिद्दत मौत की लज़्ज़त, प्यास की शिद्दत मौत की लज़्ज़त, असग़र तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, लहू लहू ये मंजर तेरे नाम खून के आंसू, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया
बड़ो सारे
हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया साढ़े बुरके भाग तेरा ने नहीं सिर्फ बाबा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय गाजी जो दे अमर गईया अज भैणा तेरिया हाय चूंदियां मर गईयां अज भैणा तेरियां अरे गाजी चूंदियां मर गईयां अज भैणा तेरियां अरे गाजी चूंदियां मर गईयां अज भैणा गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई 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 जिन्हें टुकड़े रब गए मैनों मकदर चोले आया बा आबेगल तू भर जाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई जिन्हें टुकड़े दब गए मैनों मगदर चोले आया बा आबेगल तू भर जाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई जिन्हें टुकड़े दब गए मैनों मगदर चोले आया बा आबेगल तू भर जाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई गठरी खोल के जब परवानों उतर दिलाश बखाई बोलते बन जदों ढोली कसम दे लई विच लाश न पूरी आई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई जिन्हें टुकड़े रब गए नैनू मकदर चोले आया बा आवेग ले तू भर जाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई बोल मेरे हक बरसी बोल तेरे कसम गुल काफिल विच दो बनरे दो बारी खून च होई पहली बारी रसम आई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई बोल मेरे हक बरसी बोल तेरे कसम गुल काफिल विच दो बनरे दो बारी खून च होई पहली बारी रसम आई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई जिन्हें टुकड़े रब गए नैनू मकदर चोले आया बा आवेग ले तू भर जाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई हद लबदी पैर लबदी कदी चेहरा लबदी होए सासा बनती सी कसम दे पाक बदन दा कि बेमार तरतीब बनाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई शागटड़ी खोल के जदों परवानू पुत्र दी लाश बखाई हद लबदी पैर पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई बन पोदी डिग दी नहीं श्री बाजारा बिच कुछ सहने कुछ कहने भी आया या रब कई जज बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई जिन्हें टुकड़े लब गए मैनू मगदर चोले आया बा आवेग ले तू भर जाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर बखाई बोल दे बन रेनू जीवे सहरा रावा मैं सहरा समझ के साथे बोली का समझ लई विश्वास न पूरी आई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई मतलब जी पैर लब जी कदी चेहरा लब जी सारा बदली सही बासुर दे पाक बदलने दा ये बादर जीव बनाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई जिन्हें टुकड़े लब गए मैनू मगदर चोले आया बा आवेग ले तू भर जाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई शागठड़ी खोल के जद परवानू पुतर दिलाश बखाई बोल मेरे
हुसैन या 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 हुसैन हैया अला खैरुल अमल हैया अला खैरुल अमल हैया अला खैरुल अमल हैया अला खैरुल अमल या हुसैन 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 हैया अला खैरुल अमल हैया अला खैरुल अमल हैया अला खैरुल अमल हैया अला खैरुल अमल या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन सारियां दुखां दियां मारियां बीबियां ओ सारियां दुख 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 दियां मारियां करबला विच रो गया करबला विच रो गया तो मदीने रह गया बीबियां ओ सारियां दुख दियां मारियां 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 सजाद तेनू बचावे चादरा लगिया तेरी सकीना दे कन्ना दी बालियां लगिया बच्ची मारे लाल नुएरा के जजाई रही बीबियां ओ सारियां दुख दियां मारियां 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 जरा गलते सरका चले मैं खोल करो के जरा गलते सरका चले मैं खोल करो के नहीं मिले असर तेरा नहीं मिले असर तेरा कर मैं करी रहिया बीबियां ओ सारियां दुख दियां मारियां बीबियां ओ सारियां दुख दियां मारियां गाँव में है भेड़िया आ गया बाजार शाम सजा गए माँ सजा गए माँ सजा गए माँ सजा गए माँ गाँव में है भेड़िया आ गया
وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأختك وأخيك وعلى المعصومين من ذريتك وبنيك. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت عليك سلام الله ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. خصوصا سيدي ومولاي بالفضل عباس. السلام عليكم أئمة الهدى جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم يا صاحب العصر والزمان الأمان من فتن الزمان. السلام عليكم يا إمام زماننا هذا عجل الله تعالى فرجنا سهل الله تعالى مخرجنا ورحمة الله وبركاته.